What if I told you that right now, as you're watching this, cargo ships are being rerouted, factories in the Midwest are receiving cancellation notices, and the price of nearly everything you buy is about to change? Not because of a recession, not because of inflation, but because China just made a decision that locks $7 trillion worth of global commerce into a collision course with physics? This isn't speculation. The mechanism is already in motion, and most Americans have no idea it's happening. Here's what you need to understand. On January 9th, 2026, the Chinese Communist Party quietly announced new export controls on what they call dual-use technologies. Semiconductors, rare earth minerals, advanced manufacturing components, the things that don't make headlines but make everything else possible. The official reason? National security. The real reason? They're weaponizing the supply chain. And the target isn't just America, it's the entire assumption that global trade works on neutral terms. Now, you might be thinking, we've heard this before. Trade wars, tariffs, political noise. And you'd be right to be skeptical. Except this time, the math is different. Because China doesn't just participate in the global supply chain. They are the supply chain. 60% of rare earth processing, 70% of lithium refining, 80% of solar panel production. These aren't market positions. These are monopolies built over 30 years while the West outsourced, financialized, and assumed the music would never stop. But it just did. Let me show you how this works. Every iPhone, every Tesla, every MRI machine, every defense system the Pentagon relies on, they all need rare earth elements. Neodymium for magnets, gallium for semiconductors, cobalt for batteries. And guess who controls the mining, refining, and export of all of it? China. Not because they have all the deposits, they don't. Because they were willing to do the environmental damage, pay the political cost, and play the long game while American companies chased quarterly earnings. Now they've turned off the tap. Not completely, that would be too obvious. But selectively, permits delayed. Export quotas tightened. Priority shifted to domestic manufacturers. And every executive at Apple, Ford, Lockheed Martin, and General Electric knows exactly what that means. The components they need to build the products Americans buy are now subject to approval from Beijing. And approval can be slow, or denied, or conditional. Here's where it gets worse. The $7 trillion figure isn't an exaggeration. That's the estimated value of goods moving through global supply chains that depend on Chinese inputs. Electronics, automobiles, pharmaceuticals, renewable energy, defense. If even 10% of that flow is disrupted, and we're already past that, you're looking at $700 billion in stuck inventory, delayed projects, and price shocks rippling through every sector. And it's not just about the stuff itself. It's about time. Because supply chains don't operate on hope. They operate on schedules. A car factory in Detroit doesn't keep 6 months of parts in a warehouse. They keep 6 days, just-in-time inventory. It's efficient, it's profitable, and it's fragile. One missing component, a sensor, a chip, a magnet, and the entire line stops. The workers go home. The trucks sit empty. And the dealership across town raises prices because supply just dropped while demand stayed the same. You're already seeing this. Look at the auto industry. Ford and GM announced production slowdowns in 3 states last week. The official reason? Supply chain recalibration. The real reason? They can't get the parts. And the parts they can get are now 20% more expensive. Because Chinese suppliers are prioritizing domestic orders or selling to the highest bidder. That cost doesn't disappear. It gets passed down. To the dealer, to the buyer, to you. But here's what most people miss. This isn't just an economic problem, it's a strategic one. Because the same rare earth elements that go into your smartphone also go into Javelin missiles, F-35 fighter jets, and satellite systems. The Department of Defense has known for years that the U.S. military depends on Chinese supply chains for critical components. They've written reports about it, held hearings, made promises to rebuild domestic capacity, and then done almost nothing. Why? Because building a rare earth refinery in Wyoming costs billions, takes a decade, and doesn't win elections. Buying cheap from China is easier, until it isn't. Now, you might be wondering, can't we just source from somewhere else? Australia, Canada, Africa? And the answer is, eventually, yes, but not quickly. Mining rare earths is one thing, refining them is another. China spent 30 years building the infrastructure, the expertise, and the environmental tolerance to do this at scale. You can't replicate that in 18 months. And even if you could, the companies that need these materials can't wait. They're contractually obligated to deliver products, to meet deadlines, to keep shareholders happy. So they'll pay more, they'll accept delays, and they'll pass the damage downstream. Here's the thing about supply chains that most people don't understand. They're not visible until they break. You don't think about the cobalt in your laptop battery or the neodymium in your headphones until you can't get them. And by the time you notice, the crisis isn't starting. It's already halfway over. The decisions that created the shortage were made months ago. The price increases you're seeing today were locked in when a factory in Shenzhen stopped taking orders in December. The system doesn't break all at once. It fractures, slowly, quietly. And then suddenly, everyone notices at the same time. And that's what's happening right now. The manufacturers know. The logistics companies know. The analysts tracking container ship routes and export data know. But the headlines haven't caught up yet. Because this isn't dramatic. There's no single explosion, no emergency press conference, just a series of quiet disruptions that compound into something unavoidable. Let me give you a concrete example. Semiconductors. The chips that run everything from cars to medical devices to power grids. Right now, the average lead time to order a specialized chip is 26 weeks. That's 6 months. And that's if you can get one. If you're a smaller company without leverage, you're waiting longer. Or paying more, or both. Now imagine China tightens export licenses on the silicon wafers and rare earth elements needed to make those chips. Lead times don't just increase, they become unpredictable. And unpredictability in a supply chain is the same as failure. Because businesses can't plan, they can't invest, they can't commit. So they slow down, they cancel projects, they lay off workers, and the economy contracts, not because of demand, but because the system can't deliver. Now, here's where the psychology gets dangerous. Most people, when they hear supply chain crisis, think about shortages, empty shelves. But that's not how this works in a developed economy. You won't walk into a store and find nothing. You'll find everything at higher prices. Because the companies that can still get the components will raise prices to cover costs and maximize profit while supply is limited. And the companies that can't get the components will stop producing, which reduces competition, which allows the survivors to raise prices even more. It's not scarcity, it's pricing power transferred from consumers to corporations. And it's legal, it's rational, and it's already happening. Now look at lithium. Prices quadrupled between 2020 and 2023, then dropped, and now they're climbing again. Why? Because China controls the refining. And when they decide to prioritize domestic EV production over exports, the global price spikes. Tesla, Ford, and every other automaker trying to build electric vehicles suddenly faces a choice. Pay more, delay production, or scale back. Either way, the cost gets passed to the consumer. Your next car just got more expensive, not because of labor, not because of tariffs, because Beijing changed a policy. And this is the part that should terrify you. This isn't about winning or losing a trade war. This is about dependency. The United States, and most of the West, spent the last 30 years building an economy that assumes cooperation, that assumes supply chains are neutral, that assumes China will keep selling because it's profitable. But what happens when profit isn't the priority? What happens when the goal is leverage? You get exactly what we're seeing now. A slow, deliberate squeeze. Not enough to trigger a military response. Not enough to unify the West into immediate action. Just enough to remind every CEO, every Pentagon planner, and every politician that the things they need to function, to build, to defend, to grow, are controlled by someone else, and that someone else has objectives that don't align with yours. Here's the mechanism most people miss. China doesn't need to cut off exports entirely. They just need to create uncertainty, because uncertainty is expensive. It forces companies to hold more inventory, which ties up capital. It forces them to find backup suppliers, which costs more. It forces them to redesign products to use different materials, which takes time. All of that is friction, and friction slows growth. And slow growth in a debt-based economy where everything from corporate expansion to government spending is financed by the assumption of future revenue creates a cascade. Let me walk you through it. A company can't get the components it needs, so it delays a product launch. That delay means lower revenue. Lower revenue means missing earnings targets. Missing targets means the stock drops. The stock drops, and suddenly the company's cost of borrowing goes up. Higher borrowing costs mean less investment. Less investment means fewer jobs. Fewer jobs mean less consumer spending. And less consumer spending means the entire economy slows, not because of a recession in the traditional sense, because the supply chain, the physical infrastructure that allows commerce to happen, just got more expensive and less reliable. And here's the kicker. The Federal Reserve can't fix this. Lowering interest rates doesn't create rare earth minerals. Printing money doesn't build semiconductor fabs. This is a supply-side problem in a world that spent 40 years optimizing for demand-side solutions. And that mismatch is going to hurt. Now, let's talk about what this means for you. If you work in manufacturing, your job just got less secure. If you're planning to buy a car, expect prices to stay elevated. If you rely on electronics, medical devices, or anything with a battery, expect longer wait times and higher costs. And if you're invested in the stock market, understand that the companies you own are now navigating a landscape where their input costs are controlled by a foreign government that has explicitly stated it views economic policy as an extension of national power. This isn't doom. This is math. And the math says that when you make yourself dependent on a single supplier for critical materials, you give that supplier the ability to dictate terms. And right now, China is dictating. But here's what makes this different from every other supply chain scare over the last 5 years. COVID showed us what happens when the system is shocked. Factories close, shipping stops, prices spike. But that was temporary. This isn't, because China's export controls aren't a reaction to a virus. They're a policy decision. And policies don't expire unless the incentives change. And right now, every incentive China has points toward more control, not less. They're building domestic industries. They're securing alliances with resource-rich nations in Africa and South America. They're creating a parallel economic system that doesn't need the West. And every day that the US and Europe spend arguing about pronouns and fiscal policy is a day China spends cementing dependencies that will take decades to unwind. So what happens next? The companies that can adapt will. They'll pay more, they'll wait longer, they'll redesign, and they'll survive. The ones that can't will contract. Some will fail. And the workers in those companies will find themselves in an economy that no longer needs their skills because the factories they worked in can't operate without parts that aren't coming. And the government? They'll respond eventually. Subsidies for domestic manufacturing, incentives for reshoring, maybe even penalties for companies that remain dependent on Chinese supply chains. But all of that takes time. And in the meantime, the damage compounds. Because every month a factory sits idle is a month of lost wages, lost tax revenue, and lost confidence. And confidence, in an economy, is everything. Once people stop believing the system works, they stop spending. They stop investing. They start hoarding. And hoarding turns a supply problem into a demand collapse. This is already locked in. The export controls are live. The shipments are delayed. The price increases are in motion. The only question is how far it goes. And the answer to that depends on something nobody can predict: how long China decides to keep squeezing. But here's what we know for certain. The global economy was built on the assumption that trade makes war unthinkable, that mutual dependency creates peace, that profit motive overrides ideology. And for 30 years, that assumption held. But assumptions aren't guarantees. And the moment one side decides that strategic leverage is worth more than short-term profit, the entire foundation shifts. China just made that decision. And the $7 trillion in global commerce that depends on their cooperation is now subject to their approval. Every container ship, every factory, every product. All of it now operates on terms set in Beijing. You're not watching this on the news yet, but you will. And by the time it's a headline, it'll be too late to prepare. The shortages will already be priced in. The jobs will already be cut. The dependencies will already be exposed. This isn't a prediction. It's observation of what's already in motion. The physics of supply chains don't care about optimism. They care about inputs, outputs, and time. And right now, the inputs are controlled by someone who just decided to change the rules. The math is already locked in. So let me ask you this. When the components you rely on every day are controlled by a foreign power with conflicting interests, who really holds the power in the global economy? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to know what you think happens when the supply chain becomes a weapon.